Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a tutorial on this half skull floating head look. So I've seen this look going around for absolutely ever, and tons of people have done it, I know, but I've never seen anyone do it as good as Chrisspy. So she was my original inspiration for this video. I'll have her original video linked down below, but I just wanted to try my hand on it and then give it that floating head twist. So what I'm doing right now is I'm using my Mayron Paradise paints, and those are just water-based paints. You would just mix some water up with them, and then your paint is ready to go. So I'm just taking the white and mapping out where I want my half skull to be. So if you've ever worked with water-based body paints, you know that the white takes a lot of layers to get it super opaque. So I went over this several times. I kind of skipped past that while I was editing just to save you guys time. But just know if you do this, you are going to have to do several layers of the white to get it super opaque. Otherwise, it'll just be kind of see-through and the layers might look a little bit patchy. Also, make sure to go over your lips really well as many times as you need to, because you don't want any of the color from your lips peeking through that white body paint. Once you're happy with the way your base looks, we can go in and start adding those holes in the skull. So I'm just mapping out where the nose hole should be, and I'm just taking a black body paint on a detail brush, and I'm just kind of mapping out that classic nose skull look. If you need to, looking at a picture of a skull really helps. I feel like it's more helpful to look at a cartoon skull because that's a little bit more what we're going for. It's somewhere in between cartoon and realistic. So that's just what I did to help make drawing these lines easier. After that, I'm going to be drawing the line for where my teeth are going to be. So I'm just taking that from the edge of my mouth and kind of curving that upwards a little bit, and that is going to be the base for where our teeth will go. Once you've got those lines the way you like them, just take that all the way through on your lip. Just add a little bit of darkness right there in the center, on the bottom lip, and as well on the top lip. Don't worry if that's perfectly clean. We can go back and clean that up later. Just make sure that it all attaches nicely. So then I'm going to be adding just kind of some details around the skull to make it look like it's almost a mask sitting on our face. I'm just drawing these little black dips right underneath my eye and then slowly kind of feathering that outwards. I want the most intense part to be right underneath my eyes, and then I'm just using a really light hand and feathering that back. We're just kind of mapping out where all of the black body paint is going right now. So I'm just going right underneath my cheekbone and bringing that up and kind of curving that downwards towards the top of my mouth, if that makes sense. But basically just do your best to make sure that these two lines are as close to the same as they possibly can be. And then I'm going to be slowly dropping that down below that line where the teeth are going to go and kind of making it like a raindrop shape. After that, I'm adding those little circles beyond that point where there would naturally be a hole or a break in the jaw where it's connecting. And then I'm just going to black that out with some paint and then drag that forward to add just a little bit more shadow onto that jawline. Now that most of our outlines are done, we can start mapping out the teeth. I'm just using the tiniest brush I had and then using that on the side angle to get a very, very thin line. I'm just taking that down on each side and making sure they are as straight as possible and just mapping out where the teeth are going to go. So again, I'm just kind of making sure that the teeth are all the same size. And as we move further back, we can make them a little bit bigger because that would represent those molar teeth, and those are naturally going to be a little bit bigger than the ones in the front. To start giving our teeth some shape, I'm basically just going to be making a triangle in between each line. That's just going to kind of round out the bottom of the tooth and make it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm just going through and adding a tiny, tiny, tiny little triangle at the bottom of each of those lines. After I did a few of these, I decided to start dragging that paint upwards just a little bit to give a little bit more darkness and detail in between each tooth, but feathering that up really light so that the top of the line is still super delicate and kind of just fades off. Now that all the detail is done in between my teeth, I am just taking what's left on my brush and feathering that upwards in kind of irregular lines. This is just going to kind of represent cracks in the skull. It gives it a little bit more of a realistic vibe. And then I'm taking a matte black eyeshadow on a tiny little smudge brush, and I'm just going through and adding shadow. If we were actually looking at a skull, there would definitely be shadows and highlights. So to represent that, I'm just adding a little shadow in between each tooth to give it a little more dimension. For those back few teeth, I'm adding a little bit of shadow onto those just because if you were looking at yourself or a skull or anything smiling and there was any type of shadow in the back, there would be a slight shadow onto those back few teeth. So just again to make it a little more realistic, adding some shadow there. And then on the top where I had those black lines, I'm just taking my black shadow and very lightly feathering that up to give it a little more of a mask look. As we're doing this last little bit of detail, you will really see this look start to come together. So what I'm doing is just adding a line right above that break in the jaw, and that is just going to represent the cheekbone. I'm just going to shade slightly above that, and then right below that top line, I'm also going to add a little line of detail. With a very light hand and a little bit of product, I'm continuing to blend on that line, and then I'm kind of rounding that out at the very back just to give that cheekbone a little bit more shape. For the final bit of detail, I'm just adding another line right below the break in the jaw, and I'm kind of rounding that out at the back as well, just the same as I did on the top. So if you are not going to be doing the floating head look, I would recommend adding a little shadow right underneath that white as well. That would just give it kind of more of a finished look. But if you want to go for the floating head look that I'm going to be doing in this tutorial, then you won't need to do anything else because we're just going to take that black body paint and make a ring around the bottom part of our jawline and drag that black paint all the way down on our neck and anywhere that will be showing outside of the costume. And once we're done with that, we have our completed look. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial today. I had so much fun doing this one. I'm really excited to start breaking out more tutorials. I was just kind of waiting for October. So if you guys enjoyed this, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow.